Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Emma's Treasure Chest, formerly Five Figure Vintage Exchange. This has been, what, three name changes so far? um, I've been kind of feeling everything out. I'm a revamp kind of girl. I'm always thinking of something different, something new. How can I change this? What can I do to make this different or make this better or to be more in alignment with where I am right now and what I'm doing? So I think this is a name that's gonna stick. Emma's Treasure Chest. We'll talk about the name later. It is actually September 23rd, the second day of fall, 2024. But y'all will be seeing this in October. I have the schedule set. Um, Today I want to talk about something that's just been rattling around in my mind for years, ever since I've had access to social media, probably, or the internet, digital media. Well over 10 years, well over that. And I don't know if it's a social media thing or if it's a United States thing, an American thing, a Western thing, a world thing, or even just a humanity thing. I don't know what it is, but we've always kind of lived in or dealt with this thing as we get older as humans. We reminisce on the past. Like, reminiscing and nostalgia is a human experience. We've always gone through that. They don't do this like they used to. They don't do that like they used to. Back in my day, we did this. That's always been a thing. For as long as I've been alive, and I'm 1,000% certain. As much as people, I will tell you this: something that kind of tickled me a few months ago. Now, if you go on social media or if you interact with people in real life, they always say stuff like, "Back in my day, when I was younger, we didn't do this and we didn't do that and blah, blah, blah." A lot of people now who say those things are people in their 60s or 70s. And, okay, 60s or 70s. And I remember watching a documentary on the Cotton Club on YouTube. And I think it's called Cotton Club Remembered. There was the Nicholas Brothers, Adelaide Hall, a few other people, Cab Calloway, people, of course, who would have played at the Cotton Club and all that. And I remember some of them sitting around having a conversation about how Harlem was back in the day when they were coming up as artists and entertainers during the 1920s, 1930s, Harlem Renaissance, pretty much. And they made a comment, or one lady, it might have been Adelaide Hall, who made a comment of just like, we weren't walking around in our jeans. Like, mind you, this documentary came out in the early 80s. She was like, we weren't walking around in jeans like the young people are today. And it was so funny to me because it's just like, now I'm just like, that's not a big deal. Because, then, jeans or denim were like working clothes. So it's funny now that the young people that they were talking about back then are now the older people who are talking about, back in my day, we didn't do this and we didn't wear that outside and we didn't wear this outside, So that has always been a thing, that reminiscing on, to the point of critique on modern and current generations and what they do and how they interact and how they live and their lifestyle. But what I'm noticing now, something that I think is different now than it was then, is, again, I don't know if this is something that is actually happening in real life or if it's just social media commentary. A lot of people are kind of waiting for things to become trendy, nostalgic things to become trendy, in order to enjoy it or participate. Here's an example. Let me say this. No, let me give my examples. three examples that I've seen quite a bit. People don't dress up to go to the airport anymore. I've mentioned this before. People don't go dress up to go to the airport anymore. Back in my day, you didn't go to the airport. You know, you got some people who go to the airport in pajamas and scarves and bonnets and all that stuff. We're not going to talk about that. That, for me, I'm very much a none of my business type of person when it comes to what anybody is wearing. But then people just like, you know, you could wear a suit. People would put on a suit, or women would wear dress suits, skirt suits, dress suits, and blah 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 blah. And I get what people are saying. Another example, I miss the days when stores were closed on Sunday. Things were closed on Sunday. You didn't go anywhere on Sunday. You went to grandma's house, or you went to church and then you went to grandma's house. You didn't go shopping. You didn't go to the stores. You didn't do blah, 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 blah. Now, as somebody who has worked in customer service since they were a teenager, late teens, I will tell you this. I understand that sentiment, but it wouldn't be a thing if there was not a demand for it. And I'm going to leave that right there. Things like that. I miss the days when stores were closed on Sundays. I miss when people used to dress up to go to the airport, or when people used to dress up to go to the movie theater. I miss doing that thing. And, I miss Christmas time when everything people actually genuinely seemed happy, shopping in the stores and all that, all those things. I'm not going to invalidate that, because I understand. I agree. I miss certain things. There are certain things that I miss. I know, and I have. Hold on one second. Hey, Miss Ma'am. Can you stop that, please? From a millennial standpoint, growing up, things that were considered obsolete or outdated was going to I'm not going to say obsolete. Things that were kind of like not priority, not your first go. So if you let's use Christmas as an example, Christmas shopping. People still kind of went to the department stores. Department stores are still a thing. But by the time I grew up as an adolescent, where did people go to get toys and stuff? The big stores, the big box stores, Walmart, Target, Kmart. I miss Kmart. Dollar stores. You went to stores that had everything. Whereas that at that time, that meant Walmart and Target and all those places were basically kicking the department store's ass. The mall. And I witnessed that kind of, that was something that I witnessed. I wasn't aware of it as a child. Like, oh, it's normal. Once upon a time, if you needed to go shopping, you went to Macy's. You went to Hex. Hex was here. You went to JCPenney. Those were that was like top of the list. But then before that, before the department stores, if you needed to get toys, you went to a toy store. If you needed to get clothes, you went to a clothing store. If you needed to get shoes, you went to a shoe store. Things evolve and things change, but I understand. Right now, I do have this fear that all of a sudden the malls are going to be gone. I don't think Walmart is going to be gone. In my lifetime, I've only seen one Walmart close in my city. I don't think Walmart is going anywhere. Target either. But I do sometimes have this fear that dollar stores are going to be gone. Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Family Dollar. I definitely have a fear that the department stores are going to be gone. I have that fear and I understand it. But the point of this video, I want to say, I cannot and we cannot let that fear of the future and things changing, whether it's for the better, whether it's for the worse, based on how you think or how you feel, we cannot let that paralyze us. And we can't let it stop us from doing the things that we want to do. So, again, using the getting dressed up as at the airport as an example. You miss people getting dressed up to go to the airport. Are you dressing up to go to the airport? Are you doing that? You know, if you're not doing that, are you waiting for other people to start doing it so you can feel validated? You shouldn't be doing that. Excuse me. You shouldn't be doing that. If that's something that you want to see and you want the feeling that comes with that, whatever that feeling is, you should be getting dressed up to go to the airport. I don't think anybody's going to look at you weird. And if they do, you're grown. You'll be over it. You'll get over it. I miss the days when people used to get dressed up to go to the movie theater. Why aren't you doing it? You should do it. Get dressed up to go to the movie theater. People might look at you funny. Some people might be like, yes. You know. You shouldn't be waiting for other people. And if you are that person who does that, you get dressed up to go to the theater, to the airport, to restaurants, whether they're casual dining. I know a lot of fine dining aren't going to let you come in there wearing jeans or casual clothing anyway. Restaurants. Whatever it is. If you like the feeling and the look and the aesthetic of being well dressed, or not even like formally dressed, but business casual, whatever that is for you. If that's what you like and that's what you want to see and that's what makes you, if that's what makes you feel good and makes you feel in the moment and feel the nostalgic energy, or not even nostalgic, the current energy of whatever it is that you're trying to do, put the clothes on. You shouldn't. And if you are doing that, it is my hope that you aren't looking at other people who don't look like you, who aren't dressed like you, and still being upset about it. Again, I don't want to invalidate the feeling. I understand I understand what people are feeling. Like, I understand, like, man, it would be so nice if everybody was like, if we all were looked a certain way, if we all were wearing a particular type of attire or style or whatever it is. It would be so nice if it, you know, I understand that, but you cannot control other people. And changes in technology, in lifestyle, in style in general, doesn't always necessarily mean a decline. But at the same time, if you have a particular thing that you want to do and that you there's a particular feeling that you want to feel, you should not be waiting for other people to participate with you to do it. Christmas, again, I know exactly what people are talking about. When I go do my Christmas shopping, I go to the mall. Any other day when I'm just doing any other type of shopping, I go to Walmart, Dollar Tree, Target, Five Below. I go to those types of stores for any general shopping. The grocery store, grocery stores are pretty much selling everything now as well, more than just groceries. But when I do Christmas shopping specifically, I do go to the mall. And again, I do have that fear that one day the mall is not going to exist anymore. I have that fear, but I'm going to go while it's still here. And then at the same time, I'm going to also try to work on not assuming or not anticipating that the mall as an entity is going to disappear. I'm going to be in the moment and recognize this thing is here. This is Christmas for me. You know, some things I might get online, and I shop online all the time. I get stuff delivered quite a bit. But for me, that feeling of nostalgia around Christmas time for me comes with walking into a mall, into a department store, and doing my shopping. I'm not going to let anybody take that away from me. I'm not going to look to other people to see what they're doing to decide that I'm going to do what feels nostalgic for me. I love walking into a department store because, most malls, you got the mall entrance, like the food court entrance, and then you got the department store entrance. At least that's how it is where I live. I don't know if that's the case everywhere. I love whether I'm walking in through Macy's, JCPenney, Dillard's is closed, unfortunately. Sears is closed. Sad. But I love walking into those stores because they got the setup. They got the red, they got the silver, they got the blue, they got the green, they got the Christmas music playing. And I will say this, most department stores that I go to, they have the Christmas classics playing. As long as I've been going in, they have the Christmas. It's not necessarily, and I'm not talking like Mariah Carey, who I love. That's, once that song starts playing, I just saw a TikTok of a man walking out of his apartment. He was like, "She's coming" was the caption, and then you just hear in the background. I love that. But I'm talking about like Bing Crosby, the Ronettes, Ella Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole. Like, I go into department stores and that's what's playing. Andy Williams. And it's so nice for me. It makes me feel good. But if there was a day when I walked into one of those stores and they weren't playing what I want to hear, say they're playing like a Christmas music that just came out in the 2010s, 2000s, 2020s. Can you believe we're almost halfway through the 2020s? That's crazy. Current Christmas music, if that's what's playing and that's not necessarily what I want to hear and that's not the vibe, if I'm searching for the vibe, that a particular nostalgic energy and feel, you know what I'm going to do? Earbuds, pop them in. Andy Williams, Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald, Lena Horne, Ronettes. I'm going to create the vibe that I want, even if I have to merge modern technology to do it. I can listen to Mariah Carey. I can listen to anything at home or anything in the car. But I have that particular desire. I am not going to let anybody take it away from me. And when I'm at home, I like the vibe of 70s soul Christmas music. I like the Temptations, Jackson 5, Donny Hathaway. I like that vibe at home. I'm usually not, everything for me, I can be spontaneous, but I am a Capricorn. So I am a Capricorn through and through. When I know this is what I want to feel, this is what the energy that I want in my home, in my car, in the mall. And shoot, when I leave out the department store and I go into the food court and it's crazy and loud, Mariah Carey is on. If she's not already playing, I'm listening to Mariah. Boyz II Men, Let It Snow. Who else? What's the... Is that Kelly Clarkson? I think so. If that's playing, if it starts playing, I'll let it play. For me, I create this, my world. I shape and mold my world and my desires the way that I want. In the way that I want them to feel. In the way that I want them to look. I'm not looking to anybody else. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't wait for everybody else to participate in your own enjoyment of life, of nostalgia, of, whatever it is. So, I'm not going to keep on yapping. I do want to share some things that I do. I shared a couple of things, like when I was talking about Christmas shopping and everything. How I incorporate nostalgia into my modern life. Because some of the things that we use to access nostalgia and vintage things and vintage energy and all that, they're obsolete, unfortunately. If you're somebody who likes watching VHS tapes, or you have Memories of that. You can't get a VCR anywhere anymore. What you could do, you could find one and buy one. It's probably going to cost a lot of money. It might not. But, if you can't get that VCR as soon as you like, watch the DVDs. Just watch the DVDs. Watch the streaming. Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all that stuff. Do what you can while you can. If nostalgia for you is being a kid in the 90s, sitting in front of the TV watching Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame and all that stuff, and you don't have a VCR, like I said, save up some money and get a VCR or buy a VCR whenever you can. But if you can't do that in the moment, watch it where you can, Disney Plus or whatever, and then you can be a big kid. Sit down on the floor, pop you some popcorn. I just had a flash of a memory. So when I was a kid, whenever we watched Disney movies, the food that we usually ate sitting down, or we didn't sit down on the floor. Irrelevant. Chinese food and pizza. That's where my memory is. Watching, not even just Disney movies, The Brave Little Toaster. My mom just told me when I was a kid, and I remember every weekend or every other weekend when it was just like, what do y'all want to watch? Or Adrian, what do you want to watch? The Brave Little Toaster. And my mom was just like, okay. But I have memories of popping the Brave Little Toaster in. We were probably eating Chinese food. It was always chicken fried rice for me, or I think pork fried rice. Or it was pizza. So if I'm ever in that moment where I'm just like, man, I'm really missing those days, I want to relive it. And if I have kids, you can bet your ass that I'm going to be sitting down with them. We're going to be ordering pizza. We're going to do the things that I did as a kid. And even if I can't, I'm going to shape that memory for them with what we have. So, what was I saying? How I incorporate nostalgia into my modern life. I talked about shopping. I want everybody outside to stop. Everybody's like beeping horns and running around and doing stuff. Y'all know some of the stuff that I do. I look through vintage magazines, digital archives for fun. Newspaper. I used to be subscribed to the newspaper archive, but I'm not anymore. I gotta save my money in other places. But there are plenty of, the Google News archive is free. Every once in a while, I'll go through that. I would love to have a copy of Photoplay, Silver Screen, Movie Land magazine, Old Time, Old Life magazines, all those things. And I am trying to build that archive. So I am saving money to build that, that archive. But first of all, if you think that you were born in the wrong era, in the wrong time, and you're somebody who loves the past and vintage and this and retro things and nostalgia and all that stuff, no, you're not. You are born in the perfect time, because you have access to all that stuff. You have so much access. I used to say that when I was younger. I was born in the wrong decade. I was born in the wrong time. I was born in the perfect time. Because now, if I want to look at an old Photoplay magazine and read it, I can go to the Internet Archive. It's not a hand copy, which is unfortunate. It's a piece of the puzzle that's missing, but I use what I have. And I will flip through those pages and look through and copy clippings of screenshot clippings from old advertisements and recipes and all that stuff. Nothing's going to stop me. If I find Photoplay, I'm looking at it. I might download it. I'm going to do what I can. And, in your own life, visit, as I always talk about this stuff, visit historic places. There is nothing stopping you from accessing history. Again, it seems like a lot of it is disappearing. But I'm telling you, it's not. I'm telling you that it's not. You are, and another reason that you are born in the right time is you can be the keeper of nostalgia. That's what this whole platform is about. Or the platform that produces AG Marie TV. You can be that person. Say if a building is torn down, you can be that person that goes to the site and says, once upon a time, this place was here. Here's a picture of it. It's not here anymore, but you can still come here. You can still come and look and see what it looks like now. You can still look at pictures. Things change, and it's sad. It can be saddening. But you gotta move with it. And as a keeper of nostalgia, you are the person who makes sure everybody knows that this thing once existed. Because you know how much lost stuff there is now? Torn down buildings that people don't know about? Lost movies? Lost music? All these entertainers and superstars who were big in their heyday and we don't have any record of them, of their art. Florence Mills, considered one of the basically was the, who could I compare it to? A big Broadway cabaret star. Lauded for her voice because she had a unique soprano or high-pitched voice. Sounded like a bird. There's no recording of her. There's no recording of her. But we've had people, thankfully, who were there to see her, who kept the nostalgia and said, there's no recording of her, but this is how she sounded. This is what her voice sounded like. These are the songs that she sang. You know? So be that person who goes to museums, historic landmarks. Even the most modern cities are still very old cities. New York City, possibly from my perspective, from a media perspective of media consumption, New York is basically 2 steps ahead of everybody else, always. But that city is old as this country is. That city is old. There's so much history in that city. Where I live, Richmond's trying to compete. Richmond's trying to be a little New York. Once upon a time, there was a district called Jackson Ward. It's a historic district, historic black neighborhood. Used to be known as the Harlem of the South. But Richmond is trying to be little New York. We're trying to have little New York prices too, for whatever reason. But even if this city becomes completely modernized, it's still an old city. With old shopping districts, museum districts, art district. Well, it's still an old city. The history is still here and not going anywhere. It can't all disappear. So I try to enjoy as much as I can. And I do believe that the 2020 kind of led to a reversion, or allowed a lot of people to kind of revert to history. I think we're moving into a direction where people are more understanding of, if not history, of traditional things. Good and bad, unfortunately. But, you know, I've talked about it before now. Like with us not being able to leave the house and do things, people started doing a lot of things from scratch again, and making things, cooking things, sewing. You know, we started doing all that stuff again. And I think that was one good thing that came out of that. And not to say that doing things the modern way is bad. I'm not that person. I'm not that person at all. But I do think there is something special about the human ability and the human innovation behind doing things by hand, and looking at things for ourselves and deciding, oh, I want to make this look like this. I can change this around this way. I can be the mind that decides how this should look and how this should work, as opposed to, going to a store and saying, like, getting this already made thing. Last thing. Hello, everybody. I have come to interrupt our regularly scheduled programming to show you all something that I did. I made muffins for the first time, and these are raspberry muffins to be more specific. First of all, I will say they tasted pretty good. I was proud of what I did. I know what to do and what not to do in the future, but I got this recipe from, first of all, I purchased a recipe book from a store or a local boutique called Be Charmed, and it's one of those places where you can go in and you can purchase items from various small businesses that set up shop in this one particular building. So that's where I got this book. It's called Quick Recipes for the Woman in a Hurry. This book was published in 1954. I think I have like a reissue that came out in 1955. So I bought this book in about the summertime of this year, 2024, and later, like in September, a few months later, I'm just like, all right, it's fall. A few days after fall, I'm like, it's fall. I want to make something fall-ish, something autumny. What can I do? Do I want to do pie? Do I want to do like chili, cobbler, or something like that? And then I looked through the book. I was like, oh, let me look through this recipe book that I have. And let me look at the breads. Let's see what kind of bread I can make. And then I saw muffins. And I was like, perfect muffins. Something sweet. I love sweet things. I love sweet food. I love desserts. I love bread, even though I shouldn't be eating it. So, made the decision. I am going to make muffins. Next step was, okay, what is in season right now? It's September. What produce is in season? And the thing that immediately stood out to me was raspberries, because raspberries are my favorite berries. So I was super excited about that. And I said, bam, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. And as you can see, I did it. So I tweaked a few things in the recipe. Of course, technology has changed within the last 60, almost 70 years. This book came out in 1954, so a lot of things have changed in the last 70 years. I didn't need to cook the muffins as long as the recipe called for, and there were certain techniques that I didn't necessarily need to do, at least I don't think, as a beginner anyway. So they came out well. I added a little bit of butter on top because they came out looking like they came fresh out of the womb. So I was just like, let me kind of toast this up a little bit. I also did brown my butter a tiny bit, so that was another thing that I tweaked. But they came out pretty well. So again, this book is called Quick Recipes for the Woman in a Hurry. It was published by the Staff Home Economist, Culinary Art Institute. Never heard of it, but I'm going to explore this book a little bit more. It did come in a series. There were about 4 books in the store. I think I got this for like maybe $3 or $4. It wasn't expensive at all, and I got that. So I only got the one book. I was like, let me just get one and see how it goes. And I like it. I'm going to be using it quite a bit. And I will be sharing the recipe probably on social media or whatever. But it was good. If I say so myself, it came out pretty well. So anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Even if I'm not, y'all know I've talked about this before, where I'm just like, even right now, where I'm always like I wish I could wear, I have like clothes that are like 1940s inspired that I don't wear. And I'm always just like, one day I'm going to wear it on camera. One day I'm going to do it. Or one day I'm going to wear it outside. But, child, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm tired. So, sometimes the way that the kind of work that I do, by the time I get home, y'all are lucky that I even put a shirt on sometimes when I record these videos. But, I started on this journey of vintage love, vintage inspiration. It all started with a love for old Hollywood. Entertainers, movies, the old Hollywood glam lifestyle. More so the aesthetic of classic Hollywood. That's been my inspiration. Before I get into that, something that I wanted to say earlier in this video that I do want to mention. Another thing that you shouldn't let stop you. I kind of touched on it a little bit. An example that I wanted to use. My great-grandma, Grandma Judy, she was born in 1907, lived until 2000. And even as the world changed around her, at some point she got a television. When I was a kid, I think she had a television. Of course, she knew a life without television. That is what I should start with. But I can't remember what kind of TV she had when we were older. But I do remember, as in addition, my one of my great grandpas, my mom's stepdad's dad, he still had one of the box televisions with the smaller screen that you had that had the silver knobs. Of course, I don't think my Grandma Judy had a remote on her TV. I knew it was old, but I can't remember how old it was. But he definitely had the one that sat on the floor, had the wooden box around the screen, and probably a 1950s, 1960s TV. It might not even been that old. Maybe late 60s, early 70s or something like that. But he still had that. It was the late 90s. He passed away in 2002, I want to say. He still had his TV. He wasn't letting anybody stop him from having his TV. My Grandma Judy still had a rotary phone in the 90s. Probably up until she passed away, I think. I think that phone was still in that house. I used to love playing with it. As much as time changed, she not only still had a rotary phone, but the phone still worked. It wasn't like the phone wasn't working anymore. It still worked. You can have that for yourself. I'm trying to think what I have in here. There's a lot of modern stuff in my apartment. My vintage decor is more so particularly decoration. My bookcases, a mid-century bookcase and everything like that. But as far as electronics, I guess you could say, and appliances, I don't have anything like that right now. But if I find something that works and it's old, I'm not going to wait for the world to tell me that I should be using it or that I shouldn't be using it, that I should get something newer. No. I like what I have. I got something specific for the feeling that I want to feel, the nostalgia that I want to experience, and I have it, and it's mine. That's what I was saying. My journey started with a love for a classic Hollywood aesthetic and wanted to emulate that. But what I am finding as I get older, my spirituality, again, I've talked about this before, is very rooted in ancestral veneration. Everything that I do in this life, I quiet myself and I listen for guidance from another realm. That's my spirituality. And that realm particularly includes ancestors. Those that I knew and those that I didn't. So, a lot of what I do now is even from aesthetic down to the way I cook, the way I it shifted into what did my ancestors do? What would Big Mama, my mom's maternal grandma, what would she have done? What would her grandpa have done? How did he do this? Asking my grandma, like, hey, didn't your dad have a remedy for this? Looking at pictures of, if not my own family members, but people who were celebrities who grew up around the same time that my grandparents did, or my great-grandparents did. People who look like my family, even if it's not my family. How did they dress? How do they look? What kind are there recipes available? What kind of stories? What were their stories? I'm now kind of weaving through that. And I keep mentioning cooking. Y'all have seen me talk about food on here all the time. Even the food that I eat now, the way that I eat. Because I just knew that I was going to start creating content where I'm making Cary Grant spaghetti or something like that stuff or whatever. But now it's just like, if y'all see me talking about food, it's probably going to be greens. It's probably going to be collard greens. Collard greens are big in my family. Most black households, black southern households, or southern households in general, but it was big in my family to the point of my great grandpa grew collard greens. He had a garden. And when I was younger, he passed away in the 80s, but his garden was still there. And whenever I went to my great grandma's house, to Big Mama's house, we picked collard greens to take home. That's how significant collard greens are to me and my family. That's where my nostalgia is rooted now. And it's a great place to be. It's so fitting. It's so fitting. And of course, I do want to say, I'm not trying to box myself in to I have to act like this. I have to act like this. I have to align with this particular thing. But right now, because that's where my spirituality is. That's where I am spiritually. It flows into what I find interesting from yesteryear. And another thing, this is something that any and everybody can relate to, and I think should be doing if you're not already doing it. The best way to me to connect to nostalgia in this modern life is music. Straight up. Whether you've got a record player, I have a record player. I don't feel like pulling that thing out sometimes. It's not big, but it's just I am a child of the internet age, so I'm gonna turn on Spotify when I want to hear. I have playlists. I have particular artists that I listen to when I do certain things. Usually I'm typically not necessarily in a hurry, but I want to move with haste. And so I'm not always going to be pulling out my record player. If anything, I mainly pull out my record player around Christmas time because I have Christmas albums. But for the most part, even if you got to turn on Spotify, turn on Spotify. The change doesn't always have to represent a decline. It's just different. Once upon a time, there was no Spotify. Once upon a time, there was LimeWire. First of all, before that, it was iPods and MP3 players, and before that, it was CDs. Before that, it was tapes. Before that, it was albums. Before that, you had to buy your own sheet music and play music. Things just change. Things just change. You don't have to lament change. Or assume that change means a decline, as I keep saying. But whether I'm listening to my record player or listening to Spotify, my favorite music to put on when I'm cooking, my cooking artist, I play, and Pandora is actually my favorite streaming platform. I don't care what anybody says. I love Pandora. I will listen to Pandora as long as Pandora is still here with us. But cooking music for me is Maxine Sullivan Radio. Pandora. It puts me in, because I'll hear Maxine Sullivan. I'll hear Mildred Bailey. I'll hear Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Lester Young, whoever it is. That's my cooking music. Because putting on that particular radio takes me to the place that I want to be. It brings in the feeling, or it pulls in the energy that I want to feel when I'm cooking a particular dinner. Because usually I'm cooking American Southern dishes for myself when I'm at home. If I'm cooking something Italian, pasta or something of that sort, I put on... Do I have a playlist? I don't have a playlist, but I found one. Italian cooking music. I found that because that, and I specifically make sure it has the traditional compositions, as well as Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra. And then with that, if depending on what you're listening to, Pandora or a particular radio, you might hear Etta James. It's not Italian music, or she's not an Italian artist, but the station caught on to the vibe. They're like, oh, you sound like you're cooking something. No, you sound like you probably got a glass of wine in your hand right now. When I'm cleaning, you already know. I don't even have to say it, do I? Do I have to say it? My people, millennials, you know who I'm playing. Anita Baker. You know it. Or 90s R&B, 80s R&B. If I'm just chilling, journaling or something like that, it's probably going to be Sarah Vaughan or something, because on a day like this, second day of fall, second day of autumn, this is, for me, Sarah Vaughan to me is autumn. So I'm going to be playing Sarah Vaughan today, or Sarah Vaughan radio. I got my window open. I had incense burning when I first started. That's why I was coughing at one point, because it's the first time I burned this incense, and it's cheap incense. So I was just like, oh, this is like, I can still feel it in my throat. I got my air purifier on though. Like, that helps significantly. But today I got my tea that I need to drink before it gets cold. It's an autumn day. It's going to be in the upper 80s. Lower 80s. But it's cloudy outside. I can hear the birds. There's a slight breeze. I'm off work today. What's the vibe for me? I feel I feel it. I create the feeling that I want. What do I want to feel today? I want to relax today. I'm going to chill today. So I'm going to listen to Sarah Vaughan. I'm going to drink some tea. At some point, I'm going to cook some okra, because okra's in season, and I bought okra because okra is in season, and I love okra. I have no issue. I don't need permission to create the feeling that I want to feel, and you shouldn't do it either. So, with that said, thank you for tuning into technically the 5th installment of Five Figure Vintage, but first episode of Emma's Treasure Chest. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna say that. Emma's Treasure Chest. And again, I will tell y'all about that name at some point. It's not gonna be now, but it'll probably be November. Thank you so much for watching this. Again, I recorded this on September 23rd, second day of autumn. Y'all are gonna be seeing this in October. And thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.